Bombshell WTA finally reacts after Alex Eala's shocking loss to Svitolina. Fans threaten boycott. The Filipina superstar's mixed doubles debut ended in just 39 minutes. A crushing 4-1, 4-1 defeat that left thousands of heartbroken fans in stunned silence. But the real shock came hours later, when the WTA broke their silence with a response that has sent the tennis world into a frenzy and sparked threats of a massive fan boycott. The stage was set for something special. August 25, 2026, Louis Armstrong Stadium, Flushing Meadows, New York, the 10 a.m. Start time was unusually early for a U.S. Open match. So early that even Elina Svitolina would later joke she hadn't played at that hour since she was under 12. But the crowd didn't care. Thousands of Filipino fans had packed the stands, their Philippine flags transforming the New York venue into a sea of red, blue, yellow, and white. The chants of, "Let's go, Alex!" echoed through the stadium before the first serve was even struck. This was supposed to be the beginning of something magical. Alex Eala, the 21-year-old Filipina sensation who had climbed to a career-high world number 18 ranking, was making her Grand Slam mixed doubles debut. She was partnering with Felix Auger-Aliassime, the Canadian world number 4, who had been dreaming of this moment for weeks. "It's a great opportunity," Auger-Aliassime had said, "to feel what it's like to have the Eala effect and fan base behind me." But standing across the net was a different kind of partnership. The husband and wife tandem of Elina Svitolina, world no. 9 from Ukraine, and Gael Monfils, the French showman playing his final U.S. Open before retirement. Married since 2021, this was their first time playing together in a major tournament. And they had something the young duo couldn't match. Chemistry that went far beyond the tennis court. The match began with promise. Eala and Auger-Aliassime won the opening game, with Auger-Aliassime closing it out with an ace. For a brief moment, the dream was alive. The crowd roared, the flags waved. And then it all fell apart. Svitolina and Monfils won the next 4 games to take the first set 4-1. The second set started with Eala's team holding serve to make it 1-1, but once again, the married couple took control, winning 3 straight games to seal the match. Auger-Aliassime committed 2 double faults in the final game of the first set, and the communication between the young duo seemed to break down. The final score: 4-1, 4-1. The duration, just 39 minutes. Svitolina and Monfils sealed their victory with a kiss. For Eala and Auger-Aliassime, the dream was over almost before it had begun. The Filipina superstar had made too many unforced errors, and the partnership simply wasn't ready for the seamless teamwork of a married couple who had been playing together for years. But the loss wasn't just about tennis. It was about something far bigger. Thousands of Filipino fans had traveled across the United States, some saving for months, just to see their hero compete. They had transformed Louis Armstrong Stadium into a home away from home, and in 39 minutes, their hopes were dashed. The crowd fell silent. The flags stopped waving. And the Eala effect that had taken New York by storm suddenly felt like a distant memory. As Svitolina and Monfils celebrated, the young Filipina walked off the court, her first Grand Slam mixed doubles experience ending in disappointment. But the real shock was yet to come. Hours later, the WTA would break their silence with a response that sent the tennis world into a frenzy. And when they did, the fans would react in a way that no one expected. The loss was painful, but the aftermath? It was about to get far more controversial. The kiss said it all. As the final point was won, Elina Svitolina and Gael Monfils turned to each other and embraced. A warm kiss that sealed their 4-1, 4-1 victory over Alex Eala and Felix Auger-Aliassime. It was their first time playing together in a major tournament, and they had just delivered a masterclass in chemistry that their young opponents simply couldn't match. Happy wife, happy life, Monfils would later joke after another victory, his words capturing the playful dynamic that defines their partnership. The match, which lasted just 38 minutes, was the earliest start most players had ever experienced at the U.S. Open. The 10 a.m. first serve on Louis Armstrong Stadium was so unusual that even Svitolina couldn't help but comment. "Yeah, it's amazing, fun format and so many people." 10 a.m., I think, is one of the earliest we've ever played since under 12. Svitolina revealed in the post-match interview, laughing at the absurdity of the early start. But the humor quickly gave way to something more profound. Well, first of all, very happy to play finally with Gail. It's nice to share the court together, Svitolina said. Just super happy with the win. We were trying to be really focused, but also to have fun. That was the key today. Monfils, the 39-year-old French showman playing his final U.S. Open before retirement, echoed his wife's sentiments. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much, he told the crowd. It's a fun format. I really enjoyed the first time playing with my wife. I had massive pressure on my back, but I feel like I handled it good. It's different. We played, we won, so now let's see for the next one. But the victory carried deeper significance. For Svitolina, it was her first win over Eala, after the Filipina had triumphed in their two previous WTA Tour singles encounters. At the Berlin Tennis Open and the Washington Open earlier in the year, the Ukrainian world number 9, who has reached the U.S. Open semifinals herself, had been embarrassed by Eala in those matches. This victory was sweet redemption. The statistics told the story. Eala and Auger-Aliassime committed 8 unforced errors to Svitolina and Monfils' single error. The married duo won all 7 of their first serve points and were 5 of 9 on their second serve. Eala and Auger-Aliassime had 3 aces and 9 winners, but they simply couldn't overcome their own mistakes. It's a shame that it's our first time that we're playing together, Svitolina admitted after another victory, but I think it makes all the team work. For Monfils, the victory was especially meaningful. The 39-year-old is in his farewell season, drawing the curtains on a colorful 22-year professional career. Playing alongside his wife in his final Grand Slam tournament made the moment even more special. "Thank you for being here. Thank you so much," Monfils told the crowd at Louis Armstrong Stadium. "It's a fun format. I really enjoyed the first time playing with my wife." But the victory was also a reality check for the Eala effect. Auger-Aliassime had admitted before the match that Eala was carrying the crowd. And indeed, the thousands of Filipino fans had transformed the stadium into a sea of Philippine flags. But when the match began, the energy was channeled into support that couldn't overcome the married couple's seamless partnership. This wasn't just a loss. It was a lesson. Eala and Auger-Aliassime had plenty of talent, but they lacked the chemistry and experience that comes from years of playing together. The husband and wife team, with their playful banter, clear communication, and natural chemistry, had proven that sometimes the best partnerships are the ones forged off the court. The question now was simple. What would the WTA say about the Eala effect after this crushing defeat? And when the governing body finally broke their silence, the tennis world would be shocked by what they had to say. The mixed doubles loss was just the beginning. Hours later, the WTA finally spoke, and their words sent shockwaves through the tennis world. For days, the governing body had remained conspicuously quiet about the Eala effect, sweeping through New York. They had watched as over 10,000 Filipino fans transformed Flushing Meadows into a sea of red, blue, yellow, and white. They had seen the ticket sales skyrocket and the resale prices soar by $160 per seat just because Eala was on the schedule. They had observed the phenomenon with what appeared to be clinical detachment. But after the 39-minute defeat to Svitolina and Monfils, the silence ended. Sources close to the WTA revealed that the governing body had been closely monitoring Eala's schedule and workload for months. By mid-August, she had played 56 matches across 21 tournaments, more than any other player on the WTA Tour. The relentless pace had raised serious concerns about player welfare and the sustainability of her career. We've never seen a player ranked outside the top 5 have this type of effect, Toronto tournament director Carl Hale had admitted weeks earlier. All the tournament directors are talking about it. Everybody in the industry is talking about it. Now the WTA was talking about it too, but their response wasn't what the fans had hoped for. The governing body issued a statement that addressed the Eala effect with measured praise, acknowledging the unprecedented fan turnout and the economic impact of the Filipinas' presence at the tournament. However, they also reiterated their commitment to player welfare and regulatory compliance, a clear reference to their earlier warnings about Eala's packed schedule and potential sponsorship violations. The timing couldn't have been more controversial. Eala's last loss to Svitolina and Monfils had already left her fans heartbroken. The 38-minute match ended with the married couple sealing their victory with a kiss. A moment that felt like salt in the wound for thousands of Filipino supporters who had traveled across the country to witness their hero compete. Eala and Auger-Aliassime had 3 aces and 9 winners, but their 8 unforced errors proved costly, while the husband-wife team won all 7 of their first serve points. And now the WTA was seemingly piling on. The governing body had been tightening its grip on commercial branding for months, with fines of up to $100,000 for violations of the commercial identification regime at WTA 1000 events. Eala, with her massive sponsorship portfolio, Nike, Marriott Bonvoy, Babolat, Globe Telecom, Bank of the Philippine Islands, Milo Philippines, and Locally Juice, was caught right in the crosshairs. Was the WTA protecting the integrity of the sport or punishing its brightest young star? We appreciate the enthusiasm of the fans, the WTA's statement read. However, the integrity of the competition and the well-being of our players remain our top priorities. The language was diplomatic, but the message was clear. The governing body was watching Eala closely, and they weren't afraid to act. The statement didn't directly address the mixed doubles loss. It didn't acknowledge the specific challenges Eala faced against a married couple with far more chemistry. But the implication was unmistakable. The Eala effect was being monitored, regulated, and potentially constrained. The fans were furious. Within hours of the WTA's statement, social media exploded with outrage. The hashtag #EalaFect trended worldwide as Filipino supporters expressed their anger at what they perceived as an attack on their hero. Calls for a boycott began to circulate, with fans threatening to stay away from WTA events where Eala wasn't treated with the respect they believed she deserved. The governing body had spoken, but the backlash was only just beginning. Within hours of the WTA's statement, the tennis world erupted. The hashtag #EalaFect trended worldwide as Filipino supporters expressed their anger at what they perceived as an attack on their hero. Social media platforms were flooded with messages of outrage, with fans accusing the governing body of deliberately undermining the Filipina sensation's momentum. The WTA should be celebrating Alex Eala, not punishing her, one fan wrote on X. She has brought more attention to women's tennis than anyone in years. Another fan posted, over 10,000 Filipinos came to New York to support her. The stadiums are sold out. And this is how the WTA responds? Shameful. The backlash quickly escalated from social media outrage to organized action. Calls for a boycott began circulating across Filipino fan communities, with supporters threatening to stay away from WTA events where Eala wasn't treated with the respect they believed she deserved. If the WTA doesn't support Alex, we won't support the WTA, one group declared in a widely shared post. We will take our money, our passion, and our energy elsewhere. The threats were not empty. The numbers had already proven that the Filipino diaspora was a powerful economic force in tennis. In Washington, 80% of ticket inquiries were about Eala's matches. In Toronto, her appearance sold out the 12,500-seat Sobeys Stadium within 30 minutes. In New York, resale ticket prices soared by $160 per seat just because Eala was on the schedule. The organizers had noticed. And now, the fans were making their voices heard. The Eala effect had become so powerful that it was reshaping the traditional dynamics of the sport. Tennis had always been a sport of quiet etiquette. Spectators expected to stay silent during points and applaud politely after winners. But the Filipino fans brought a different energy. They chanted. They waved flags. They celebrated every point like it was a championship victory. And not everyone was happy about it. Some tennis purists had complained online about the behavior of Eala's increasingly massive following. Some spectators accused Filipino supporters of ignoring tennis's traditional etiquette by shouting during points and reacting loudly to line calls. What began as a debate over proper behavior soon turned ugly, with some online comments crossing into openly insulting territory. But the players themselves didn't always seem nearly as offended as the people complaining online. After facing the heavily pro-Eala crowd in Toronto, Swiss star Belinda Bencic said she had mentally prepared for the atmosphere and that the cheering did not particularly bother her. The athlete actually standing across the net could deal with it, one commentator noted. Yet some spectators watching from the outside apparently could not. The WTA's statement had ignited a powder keg. The governing body's words were diplomatic, but the message was clear. The Eala effect was being monitored, regulated, and potentially constrained. And the fans were furious. The question on everyone's mind, would the WTA back down, or would the boycott become a reality? The silence from Alex Eala's camp was deafening, but it didn't last long. Within hours of the WTA's controversial statement, the Filipina superstars team issued a carefully worded response that walked the line between diplomacy and defiance. Sources close to Eala revealed that the 21-year-old was disappointed by the loss, but remained focused on the bigger picture. Her singles campaign at the US Open. "It's a shame that it's our first time playing together," Eala reflected on her mixed doubles debut with Felix Auger-Aliassime. But rather than dwelling on the 39-minute defeat, she was already looking ahead. The loss to Svitolina and Monfils was particularly bitter, because it marked the first time Svitolina had ever defeated Eala. The Filipina had triumphed in their two previous WTA Tour singles encounters at the Berlin Tennis Open and the Washington Open earlier this year. But in mixed doubles, the married couple's chemistry proved too much for the young duo to handle. The statistics told the story. Eala and Auger-Aliassime had 3 aces and 9 winners, but their 8 unforced errors proved costly. Meanwhile, Svitolina and Monfils won all 7 of their first serve points and were 5 of 9 on their second serve. As GMA Network reported, Auger-Aliassime committed a double fault in the final game of the first set, and communication seemed to break down between the young partners. But now, Eala's focus was shifting. The women's singles main draw was set to begin on August 30, where she was projected to enter as a seeded player following her rise to a career-high No. 18 in the WTA rankings. Before that, she would take part in the Stars of the Open exhibition event against world No. 14 Eva Jovic, a chance to get familiar with the atmosphere and conditions in New York before embarking on what could be another historic singles campaign. The WTA's statement hadn't broken her spirit. It had ignited her fire. "I know that I won't continue to experience it if I don't continue that work," Eala had said in Cincinnati, her words echoing the resilience that has defined her journey. From a 12-year-old chasing Rafael Nadal, through an airport to a world number 18 stunning the tennis world, she had overcome every obstacle in her path. And the fans who had threatened a boycott? They weren't going anywhere. The Eala effect was bigger than any governing body's rules. It was a movement that had transformed the US Open into a celebration of Filipino pride, and it wasn't about to fade because of a mixed doubles loss or a controversial statement. As the Daily Chronicle observed, organizers had noticed, when one player can move ticket demand, mobilize diaspora communities, and create noticeably different atmospheres at international tournaments, sooner or later, so does the entire sport. The road ahead was clear. Eala would take the court at Arthur Ashe Stadium on August 30, carrying the hopes of 110 million Filipinos and the weight of a sponsorship empire that the WTA was trying to regulate. She would play with Nike on her chest, Babolat in her hands, and the Filipino flag in her heart. And no loss, no statement, and no governing body could stop her. From a stunning defeat in mixed doubles to a controversial WTA response and fan outrage, Alex Eala's US Open journey was already one of the most dramatic stories in tennis history. And the best chapters were still ahead. New York is ready. The world is watching, and Alex Eala is just getting started.